This is Vera Clark from Moo Ma University, which is a phantom online university, meaning it's not real. But it's as real as far as the information that I'll be giving you. And it's about an educational program to educate you on some of the things that are going on in our society that the average human being is so naive about. And that is the misuse and abuse of restraining orders in divorce cases. Now, in some of the other videos, I may have gone into detail about how you set someone up that you decide you don't want to be married to anymore. And now how that is done is by one of the easiest ways, especially out of Minnesota and state of Washington and Goldendale, Washington. And I'm sure there's other little towns across the United States, because I've been hearing like stories one after another for the last 20 years. And this criminal fraudulent activity needs to cease and desist. You know, this program is actually going to be covering so many different topics in a way, but cores back to the same thing. Where is your tax money going? What are you paying judges $140,000 a year for to rob and destroy America from the inside out? I mean, your state legislative people, all of you need to reevaluate programs that are out there that need to be cut, and things need to be realigned. Voters need to pay a lot more attention to who you're voting and putting into office. If you have people you're putting into office that don't even know what dollar amount for felony C is, and I mean, we're talking prosecutors, attorneys, judges, nobody knew. How embarrassing, Goldendale. All from a fraud from a father who, on a court order, had, his own methods of how to follow them, which was never, and knew how to mess with the minds of children and the mother alike. Now that, you're going to have to read the book. It's called Sabbath, 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 and Other Unholy Alliances. How this guy actually bragged out of Two Harbors, Minnesota, that he would tell judges what to do. Now, how can a high school fellow that with only, some moderate extra training, scuba diving training and things like that, we're not sure how don't think there was a lot more educational advancement much past that. There could have been, but anyway, how can you take somebody that initially appears like a God-fearing, and watch out, girls, for those church guys. You might as well go down to local bars and pick one up there, because you know what you're getting then for sure. And, we can look at certain alcoholic traits of, always degrading you and always putting you down, because for some reason, out of the insecurity of their soul, they have to, people that have a major alcoholism problem. On the whole, we're not saying all of them. I heard of an exception today on one case where the guy had a drinking problem, decided to quit and just quit. And without the aftermath of the, dry drunk syndrome, where the guy is worse when he quits drinking than he was when he was drinking. And it's like, would you go have a drink? You were better before. And so, because the body craves things. We're talking about a lot of cravings, I guess, in one way or another. Craving for control, the craving for dominance, the craving for existence, and a lot of these different things come into play when a guy is dealing with a spouse. That's after the contract, or the marriage contract, and the gal starts seeing what you got herself into, and it's like, oh my goodness. And you get these cult churches that have total control, that demand that they're going to have the offspring be raised under them to be one of them. And if you're a spouse that doesn't go along with the program, or you're not part of that cult and you object to being your kids raised under that, they'll take care of you. They will. They'll group together. You could be, out there on 40 acres and a nice home on 4 levels, and, that cult group wants all your stuff. And so does the gal that's from the same church, well, despite married, whose husband opposed to being part of the group too. I mean, we're talking about very, very, very dangerous situations that have existed, true story, that we will be going into more in the book when you read it. Sabbath, 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 and Other Unholy Alliances, which will be forthcoming. But, you gain a lot of your experience through experience, or a lot of your knowledge through experience, and some you'd rather do without. But, maybe it can help you on some, in the future. Maybe we need new laws about the custodial interference and about various types of women, from social services, dating one of them, a social worker, to finally, eventually, after, 5 marriages, finally marrying that one. But, after your little girl in the 2nd grade draws a picture with the social worker being her mother. Now, is there definitely custodial interference or some kind of illegality about that in these little towns? But, if you're, and I heard about Kokomo, Indiana, I heard of an almost identical situation. So girls, it's not just isolated. When something strange happens to you and you think, oh my gosh, and wrapped up and scared about your kids and their safety, and especially the biggest shock is when you have judges and police that are, and the guy is connected to half the town or 3/4, and you get a real eye-opener. This stuff where you believe in America, which you still do, and you believe in laws and everything else, which mean nothing, I guess, in these little towns that have their own make-up laws, who knows who, and, heard today in the back room where things are totally done before you ever get into court, and you're going, what the, So law school and laws, which I believe everybody in America, I heard there's a drop in law school, and to me, get the good ones, and I think everybody needs to be educated as much as possible. Everybody should get a law degree. It seems like it's going to get that way. But if you've got, judicial activism where laws mean nothing, what's the use of law school? So, we want judges and we want attorneys that are tired of the games that are going on that destroy families and kids especially, and destroying the base of America. So if you, want to, work with us and not be a challenge, which, we expect that anybody that would want to come against me would probably be those that are making the most profit from it and the most money from it and the most wanting me to shut up, which is like, with God's grace, that's not going to happen. You touch somebody a core of a mother's heart, which is their kids, you can forget about 100 years, 200 years, whatever. That mommy, wants some justice, and some of you guys exposed to what the heck you doing, because she doesn't want her grandchildren, she doesn't want her own children misrepresenting, misusing, the court system for what's supposed to be good, not as a rape system, victimization of, it seems like in our society you have street people who know how to run the system. I could almost name at least 3 here, and that and they think they're so slick because they've got it down pat, and you want to know which, cop is in their back pocket, because you can't even get anything to a prosecutor unless you get a policeman to pass it on. So you really makes you kind of wonder, how on earth can a guy do fraud in 2 different states like Minnesota and Goldendale, Washington, and get the police and a prosecutor to do all this free work to take out a mother? Well, the mother cannot get any help. You take something really real to the local prosecutor here, and it's like, well, I don't think that we do that. That's fair. I don't get it. It didn't seem like it really applies. And the guy's probably really seeing it and doesn't. He's either inept, incompetent, or, whatever. But somehow you take fraud, telecommunication fraud, or any other, can't find the kids. I don't know where they're at, like in Minnesota. And it's like, how stupid are some of these judges after all? I mean, what are they swallowing? I don't get it. The wrong information for sure, if you're swallowing something. Or what are you trying to do? And it's a little secret agenda that you just, don't you care about children? What the heck? If you're one of those female judges that are, and I got to tell you, from my experience, I've seen 3, and I would hope they are not all like this. Girls, if you can't make a decision on your own, what the heck are you in office for? This thing about brothers and sisters, and you gotta, your child is not, our children are not, up for community decisions. What do parents are, these children are born from parents that, they should have their rights and say so about what happens to their own kids. Some of you that give them up or, have the abortions or whatever, you've made a decision. and that you made a decision. It's the ones that do not. Their rights as parents are denied. An awareness of, where the children are located, the trauma that's put through that. That'll be, again, another book. And so we know, they'll be in process. And so it should be an eye-opener. But in the meantime, let's start this new year. If you're one of those corrupt judges, it's just like Paul in the Bible, where God used the worst one out there. Oh, I don't know if he's worse, but his heart was right. He was just doing the wrong thing. And yet, God used that guy putting flat on his face first, but the worst judge out there in America knows exactly the games that are being done and the hardness of his heart, whether he had a bad marriage and he got taken out, or you have a prosecutor, and they all think it's funny. They sit and they laugh and they smirk and they look at a new wife that's gone through a divorce trying to get rights, and it's like, what? And everybody else is supposed to be nuts but them, and it's like, you know what? I think you need to go for counseling. If you think you're going to take revenge on the next woman out there, or the next, obviously you've got some issues you've never settled in your heart, and you need to deal with that, If you're going to be torturing other little kids and forced abandonment issues and early desires for suicide with these kids or a parent. I've heard a parent even, a few months ago was ready to put, take himself out, and just came so close. He said that far. Don't you dare do that. Don't you dare do this. Stand up and fight. If you're going to go out with, fighting anyway. And stand up, so that you don't understand. What we do today as parents, losing parents, is you're teaching your kids how to handle challenges in life. And so you want your kid doing that? If everybody keeps taking themselves out, there you go with population control, right? Getting people to take themselves out or you get them on all these different drugs. I just heard of a list today that almost everyone that's been doing all these shootings and everything, another, who's being shot at? Defenseless people. So don't, give me this gun control thing, and the bombs that were done. It seems like if they're going to be done, and were these people on any of these drugs or whatever, what? In the town of Goldendale, I've never seen so many kids and the drugging up of children at an early age and their early development. And so who's making money on that? Where is all this starting from? How come before in our society people have been able to function, but you drug them up from the time they're little one to grow to drugs, and then give them a dog like that should, suffice and somehow help with their emotional support system. Well, those dogs that are, could have fleas, and these people are not competent or not, some of them, to really handle a dog. They're not given any dog training lessons or, forced to go through any. And so you doctors who are just like getting all these waivers to being in particular, housings that are so cluttered already with close to being side by side, and then you get an enormous amount of pets in these facilities, and they're overrun and no pet policies, and there's just so many different issues. We're going to be breaking down some of these things and talking about them specifically, but that's the splattering. My stepdad used to do this Hungarian goulash. Well, this is the throwing it out there of various little topics that we'll be covering. Also on not only that, but on a positive side, a lot of new professions in this day and age that we can start thinking about opening up, eliminating others. And if you want to know just a little taste right now, I think you should get rid of all guardian ad litems. I've had attorneys out of Seattle, Washington tell me they haven't found one they had used twice. Who gives them the right over the right of the parent to buy? What is this? How is this set up? Now, we don't want to throw the baby out with with the bathwater. So we do have a lot of major things to talk about, and a lot of different topics. And this is just to give you a taste for the coming year of 2016. And I think we need to come a lot stronger and harder and start reestablishing parental rights, back our civil rights, instead of these restraining orders that set people up to be criminalized and thrown in jail. Excessive overbilling up to $60,000 is common in Goldendale, Washington. It sounds like there's a little clique there that if you're an attorney, you are well taken care of, because the little hint playing with your toes underneath the tables, and they don't live here, and so people here cannot get safety all the time, and just kind of like laugh like when someone's life is almost totally put on the line, and one night where it was either the kids or the older woman. We're safety issues, and by the way, when you get into these housing situations where they're housing people who rent all over the neighborhood, how are you letting them in there? And you've got a grandmother who outright claimed there was no control on a 19-year-old kid getting alcohol where he goes all over the neighborhood threatening people, even in the same complex. What is going on with that? Goldendale, Washington, double check your what are you doing? What are you allowing in there that's terrorizing other tenants? And along with people misusing their drugs, drugs are like topic number one here. It's like they want to, just say no. Well, it's like, the parents need to get educated, because it seems like the kids really know all about it. And that could be from well-to-do families, too. Then it's like, hush, 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 hush. So, does anybody have any social or ethical responsibilities to what you're doing to your kids, or what kind of society? This, on up. And who is going to be left in control? Now you have a bunch of people that have been doped up, from the elderly to the, to the very young. And what kind of society? What kind of are we teaching them anything about survival, real, true things, or just about dependency? And things happen to people. They do need help. And there's a heart of gold in some of these people in Goldendale on the other side of the coin. They're wonderful. You'll find some exceptional people there, like at their hospitals, and there's just some other people that really need to be recognized. There's a heart of gold, and so how you can have these two, talk about bipolar existence, that's for sure, and those that will just rob from the dead and strip their vehicles and take them and pretend to help, and they rob them instead. And, it's hard to believe how cold someone can be in a little town like Goldendale, Washington. But, it's got good sunsets. There are some great people. If anybody cares about that town, you got to start with the court orders, getting that cleaned up. Start with, right to privacy. Start with this dog infected areas that are, as far as dogs, you could have like restaurants called dog dens. You could have like, other separate, you want to develop something. Well, how about dog training classes, dog responsibility? If you're going to be forcing animals all within just a conglomerate of dumping them together with people that don't have animals, and insisting like blowing smoke in people's faces like they do in some of the bars the way it used to be, and where people couldn't have fresh air. Well, what about some peace instead of allowing some dog to come up and sniff your pants? I mean, some of us take offense to that. We don't have animals, and we just, keep your dog under control, for heaven's sake. So, I used to like animals, but from what I've seen on some of these things, I mean, where's the human beings? I saw a little cartoon one time that it was out of Duluth, Minnesota, at one of the colleges there, and a good elite college too, and it showed a little kid going to a dog, "You got more rights than I do." Well, as far as humans go, who's supposed to be in control of things? If your animal is, where did it get educated? What college, university did it graduate from? Who's it dependent on to feed? And these are carnivorous animals, and they're sticking them right, next to their kids in these, push carts and, behind their backs. Well, all a dog has to do is take one good bite. That kid, and, it's an animal, right? Who's in control here? What are you doing? So we can ramble or talk, and we're not going to ramble, and so we're just going to give you a little taste of what's going to be coming for 2016. The goal is social responsibility and ethical responsibility for those in our society that you pay $140,000, I heard, money to destroy families from the inside out and get kids into early alcoholism indirectly. They are accountable. Forced abandonment issues, just years and years and years of heartache. So is your money really worth that? How do you sleep at night? No wonder there's alcoholics that are reported and that sit on the bench. How about just start doing the right thing today, and maybe you'll get to go to sleep at night without some, some crutch of some sort. That's, instead of a good, clear conscience. And if you don't have a conscience, it's about time you get one, because people like me want to make sure that you start developing one, because those are our kids out there, and you're not doing a very good job. And billing us $60,000 based on no income while a gal tries to finish college and tell her should quit and get one of the local waitress jobs like there was any, and the highest unemployment area in the entire state of Washington. Are you kidding? Women, you have not come a long way. You're being totally robbed. You're being discriminated against in society. You're told that, still shut up, keep down. You say anything, we'll nail you in court. And it's like, if you do, I'll just use it, as evidence against your bias and discrimination. So, the more you do, the more material you're going to give us. So, to validate what I'm saying. So, thanks. Yeah. And we want to know what particular judge is doing that. So when election time does come up, we want to make sure that the public knows all about you and maybe get you out of office and try to get some responsible people in there. Hey, yeah. Maybe it is time somebody stands up, because if you don't, my gosh, what are you living in this country for? Nothing is free. Nothing. Somebody's paying a price for you. And if you can't get up and get down there and vote, and if you are on the wrong side of things, the question is why? What if it's your kids? What if, there's a female judge out of Minnesota. As long as her own kid had horses, as long as her own kid had piano lessons, she cared nothing. That little 12-year-old girl got severely choked. Instead, she created an arrest warrant for the mother trying to protect her. And yes, there are some safe houses that are not so safe. That we'll be also talking about safe houses that are not safe, and where a kid would rather go and be choked than live in them in a safe house out of Raleigh, North Carolina. So we're going to be covering many, many topics, not only about future new jobs, new type of careers that could be created that are going to be helping our society from the ground up. Not this destructive setup that we presently have, that where state officials should be cutting programs. And I will tell you just exactly where I think those should be. One of them is getting rid of the guardian ad litem programs. They usurp parental rights and decisions, and it's not biblically. They're anti-biblical. It's honor your father or mother, not father and mother, not father or mother. And the way our court system is set up across the United States today, it's father or mother. Now, these kids will not, we're going to make some more programs here, so this one's not so long. But there are, the way it's set up, kids can't stand to listen about bashing up against a parent. Well, guess what? It's because of the way the system is set up, and that's the only way a parent wins. And so the reason that they keep bashing and bashing, or why one does the other, is because if your loyalty ever changes, and that's why the father, no matter what, for 20 years constantly interfered, tried to get his own face in there, showed up at the mother's legal visitation time, so tried to pull the child away from her arms, and the kid still remembers it today from what I understand. And he wasn't even supposed to be there, and he did everything corrupt to make sure for 20 years the children, when they grew up, never had a peaceful relationship. The mother could never relax, always having to look behind her back. Was he there? And what's he doing now? And if it had been for one fellow who believed in justice, the mother would have been very, very vulnerable. Women are forced to find strong men who have ethics to protect themselves and their children when their children are with them, because there were some judges that were not that ethical and was trying to get the kids to make the mother go to his house to get the kids. And at least you can give the father some credit there where they sort of intervened. But other than that, isn't that pathetic? Women shouldn't be afraid to live in America. And, and if you're afraid to speak out, that could be your daughter tomorrow. That could be your sons having to go through this kind of, horrific experience. And, these people want to commit suicide and everything. Remember, you're training your future kids too. Whether they know it or not. And what kind of legacy do you really want to give that you gave up? You didn't want to fight? What are you made of? Get out there. You got better genes than that. You got a gift to even be here. So, if you haven't figured out why you're here, then just, get an idea. And maybe it's to stand up for the rights of others as well as your own. And God bless. And by the way, Merry Christmas. Christmas is tomorrow. And this is my gift to you for the information. And I don't care what position you have, how powerful you are. Do you have a mother? Do you have a dad? Maybe you didn't like either one. But you wouldn't be here without one or the other. Your genes are made up of both, and what you decide, whether you want to be like them or not, you're here and you're given an opportunity as an individual of the human race to decide what kind of a human being you want to be. And we're not, this isn't going to be a program about hate. With God's grace, it's not about even vengeance, but it is about exposure, because vengeance belongs to God. And, some of us waited a very long time, maybe like 20 years to see it, but we don't want to play God. No. Would you want to get in God's way or whatever he's doing? No. I don't want to be God. But I do want to see. I want to see what vengeance God would do. Vengeance does belong to the Lord. And hopefully he'll do it here and not wait for eternity for the individual to be lost forever. That's his decision, not mine. I'm not God, never want to be God. There's too much in that. And so, as far as vengeance, yes, well, there's a lot of times we do want to take those things into our control, but then you're playing God. Now, what we might talk about is some of those people that made that decision and, how that didn't turn out well for anybody. Not even some of the other decisions either. But, maybe the mistakes that people make, hopefully the rest of us, well, as long as you're still here, as long as you still do something, we'll learn from that. And that is about, trying to do the right thing. If you fell on your face, not even King David did the right thing. So, when to put somebody up there, there is no perfect human being. That those that intentionally, we're talking about, that try to destroy kids. And intentionally. We're not talking about ignorance or stupidity or, things, that you've done inadvertently. We're talking about planned, premeditated murder by using a restraining order, throwing a wife out in the middle of the street in the dead of a Minnesota winter and getting your girlfriend in the house within 2 weeks, and then kind of doing the same thing to that gal after you use her and do it again and you're using it again. That's a serial kind of, we haven't come up with the right word yet, but when you're going through 5 wives, that second wife you threw out to, set up with premeditated murder with the girlfriend, and you still wasn't good enough, right? And put another kid, get one born, and put a kid through all of that too. You can't control people or things like that, but a lot of these people wouldn't get by with half this stuff if it wasn't for the judges, and wasn't for those court orders, and wasn't for not giving a rip, just collecting the money, in the aftermath of it all. So when it's the judges that don't take any responsibility or accountability, because that individual that did the premeditated murder on the mother, and destroyed the relationship for their children for the next 20 years with the help of their church. Cut little thing out of Duluth, Minnesota. Yeah. If you want to know all of that, that's going to be in the book. Sabbath, and other unholy allowances, right on their very favorite holy night, Friday night, where my mother couldn't get any help, and freezing cold weather outside, and only had 5 minutes when she thought her husband had come home to have dinner, and she'd been cleaning house all day long, and he said all he wanted to do is take the kids for a drive, but he's afraid for his life. Hey, listen, you know how many times a guy used that one? And it seemed to work all the time. These one guys told me that's how they know how they win, but they wouldn't. There's a few that you take your hat off to that they said they refused to castrate themselves. Other guys, they don't give a rip. They'll castrate themselves because they'll get money. And then they want to project how around that, brag to everybody how they got the kid, implying the wife is no good. Now, who's used that and did that same kid teach a stepson how to do the same thing to end up with a couple of kids as well? Where's that mother? Or, learned from his mom. It wasn't me. So you're going to, there's a couple more little girls, it sounds like, that might be learning, how they're no good, half of them. But, there's daddy. There's daddy. But, that little girl's made of both the mother and the father. So when you trash that mother and say they're no good, you're telling that little girl that you got there and that you win all that custody for, she's no good either. So, hey, you deserve hats off, Daddy? No, don't think so. You're just not worth it, Really not. I don't give a rip what you show society. It's, that little girl's going to probably end up with divorce and learning all your little methods too. And is that good training? You want your hats off for that? I don't think so. This is Vera Clark. You know what? And to better people out there, those with some better ethics. I mean, it's one thing if you want to get a divorce. It's another when you do premeditated murder. It's another when you try to criminalize a mother and you do everything underhanded from somebody that's not a drug, ever been on drugs, not as an alcoholic, and doesn't fall into those categories. But guess what? There's also no money in that. And that's another story about where all your taxpayer money is going in all these programs. And with a city attorney basically stating that, you know, they don't believe in them and that, you know, they don't seem to make a difference. Well, maybe we should cut some other programs out there. You know, if these things are ineffective, where's your tax money? Well, it should go on the elderly, who are outnumbering the youth now and that need dental and eyes and things like that. And guess what? You better get out there and start voting. You better get off the drugs, find a healthy way to get yourself into shape. And that doesn't mean running a mile or anything else. Maybe it means slowly getting yourself off the drugs, start eating better, and then when you feel better, start doing a little bit of exercises around the house. And then when you start feeling a little better, then go out a little further. But, you know, don't kill yourself just trying to do it overnight, because you didn't get that way overnight. So here's with much love and a better society. And for those parents who finally decide you're not going to do it away with yourself, you're not going to, you know, that kid needs some time to grow up, let them, you know. I mean, it's already been 20 years anyway, right? And you hope they don't have to grow up and be educated through experience like you've had to learn and get the biggest shock of your life. So that one needs another little book, doesn't it? We'll give you a name on that one later. So for now, we're going to say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and may your 2016 be one of great, you know, healing and restoration, if nothing else, even if it's not material, that you will stand up and say, I'm going to be a better human being for myself. And you've got to love yourself first before you can love anybody else. And you know what? I do. I could care less. You know, you can label me anything you want. I don't give a rip, you know, and yeah, think you're going to hurt me or whatever. But you know what? And all this stuff about change and change, everyone was change. Why don't you get to know yourself first before you talk about changing? How can you change something you don't even know what you got? You don't even know who you are. You don't even know the talents or gifts that you have because you haven't tried. You haven't developed yourself. Instead, it's easier to get drunk or drink or, you know, dope up or lay around and watch the TV and scratch the backside, you know, and like, where's that going to get you after, you know, all your life is over, and then lay around and let some group of people in, you know, nursing homes and all take care of you, you know? I mean, if that's your choice, that's your choice, you know, there's a lot of money in it, or it can be, and so there'll be people, you'll give people jobs and things like that. You're just a specimen laying around out there, you know, and so, you know, you're hoping to bring in some cash for somebody. But why do you live that way? That's got to be another hope program, some ideas I have for the elderly. And dang, people, we better make a change now about new programs. I mean, those that have already given up and sit over there on the left side, go ahead. But for the rest of us that want a better way, a better quality of life, and some ideas about what I think needs to be changed and how you can, you know, do better, we'll have another program on that one too. So stay tuned. I'm going to look forward to talking to all of you. And one, I also want some input. We hope to be doing some forums out there, FORUMS, and doing some recruiting. And I've had some volunteers already. I have to tell people to tell their story. Those that don't want to be known or be on video, and because this is going to be worldwide. And all my videos will be pertaining to America and the United States. So not that I want to hear about your stories. Now, these programs can work for you or against you if you're in, you know, a judge, because we want to support the good ones. We want to get the bad ones out, because everything bows down to that court order. You got social services and everybody else, and they talk about going and talking with them. That you can eliminate. What a waste of time. I mean, there was a fellow that took himself out, and I'm not sure if the rest of his family, they wouldn't listen until he was gone, and then they, oh yeah, there was mistakes, was there? There's too many people making money, and these are funds. And your state legislature, you want to know where to cut things, I'll tell you. We're going to have some great talks here, and to let's realigning where some of the funds are going so that you can help today's population without probably spending another extra penny, and eliminating those that are ineffective, and start putting responsibilities on these judges. And when they're causing deaths, just like if you're an airplane pilot and you fly and there's a crash, well, you look at the instructor. Well, we need to heavily start looking at judges and who signed those court orders, who signed that last one, and what was done that obviously didn't work. And you get rid of this power struggle between the parents, and you're going to help give relief to the children. This thing that I'm greater because I got custody, and then they badmouth forever, and the kids hate them both. So, is that a good way for our society to be? I don't think so. So I'm going to look forward again, with God willing, keep me in prayer, because, we're going to be stepping on powers that be. And all the money it's made out of foster care. I mean, this one gal told me where there's guaranteed $50-something thousand, and you people go, I wondered how they could afford all those kids, and they're not theirs, So where's our tax money going, people? Where's your tax money going? Who's, footing the bill here? And by the way, I don't believe grandparents should be paid to take care of their own grandkids any more than, when one of the parents is out there being sucked to death. Yes, we're going to be honest. So, some of you guys that have lost out there, I'll be more than happy to talk to you, because we want to get your story out there. If this had happened, I feel, to another guy, somebody might not listen. But since it happened to a woman who believes in heck, what the heck did you do? And those are my babies. I waited a long time for them. And I don't care how old you are, Moo is coming to town near you. You know it. And I think we should have some other people speak up as well and get to know who you are electing and who's running for office. And if they're not, just maybe we should change where, some voting is being done, and if you have nothing in a town but, the local government there is being your only support system, and the rest is, your town is dying. Maybe they need to move, where that government section is being conducted, and to a more a town that has more growth, so that there is other services that are more available, and transportation, and to get, even to those that are thrown in jail. So it's not an isolated area out in La La Land where nobody can get to and they're stranded. So, we just got to talk about a lot of different programs, a lot of your input, and we can save your negative ones, because we know that, the ones that'll be more apt to attack me are probably, a lot in the profession are making money. And, that can be from any of the fields. So, from the psychiatrist, the psychologist, I don't know about, all of them are anything good. You may have some ethical ones out there, but those that lie on a witness stand and claim they've seen people they've never seen in their life. Oh my gosh, there's some really they're not funny stories. They're out there to destroy people and get them all on drugs. It's like, shut up, we got this thing, a little good deal going here, and we don't need you exposing it from the ground up. But yeah, sorry, good. It does need to get exposed, and your little, salary needs to be hit there, and especially if you're doing unethical things and just to make money to job security. So yeah, you need to get kicked out or whatever, disbarred or whatever. Your pension hit. If you're going to hit other elderly, people. I mean, right now, Washington State is getting some of their money from robbing the poor and robbing excessive dollar amounts, where they trying to put the elderly in jail and everything by excessively creating, I call it create a criminal, excessively creating dollar amounts of child support and holding the kids as hostages and denying your rights. You're not getting your money's worth. What are you getting your money's worth out of? And they want you to just, go get a job, and we want to take more money out of you, and yeah, are we in America? Are you kidding me? No way. Absolutely no way. I think, we should get our money back, because we're not getting our money's worth to begin with, so why should we give you more? We got to get loud out there. They don't hear you, just keep getting louder and louder until somebody does, going, who the heck are you? What are you doing? And why are you drinking at night? When did you start doing the right thing, huh? Well, listen, we do this with love. We're going to end this with love, because, if you don't care about another human being or kids or anything, we do. And so may other people speak up and get our rights back, because this is civil issues. And, all the women that fought before to stand up for some rights, it doesn't mean, we want our men to lose theirs either. So it's, honor your father and mother. Start doing some, biblical right things, because you're teaching those children. And if you're not going to be the backbone for your children, who will? are they all just about children about commodities? You know, and being a commodity about who's going to make money off of this one and who's the other kid so I can look great and smell good in society because you're a foster parent or making a ton of money. And I've heard of big bills. The more you can get them on drugs, yeah, I heard that's what that one person was saying, 50-something thousand if you can get them on, you know, the kids on drugs. Well, no wonder they're drugging them in every little tiny behavior, and you get them on drugs. Who's paying them? But drug companies? Okay, we really need to look at what is going on. You have got a social and ethical responsibility to America, by the way. And, you know, Americans, please don't let these people take America out, because it's good, and people have spent their lives to lay down for you. And so, you know, nobody said this is going to be free. Nobody. And so stand up, start fighting for your rights as an American in this day and age. We send our love with you, and you put our prayer and heavy prayers out there for the rest of us who are more than willing and happily out there for you. So you have a great Christmas, because, you know, Moo Ma's here, and I say it with love, and I say it with complete 100% sincerity. So don't think I'm kidding. And, you know, I care about you, and you got a responsibility. What are you going to do, you know, if you face God and you're dying on your deathbed? How are you going to explain your life? Is it really going to be worth it? Your money you're going to blow. It's stuff you buy is going to get old. And, you know, what are you about anyway? Do you have any character left? And if you don't, start getting some. And if you don't, start learning how. You know, yesterday's gone. What are you going to do today and for the next years ahead of you? Just like Paul, he turned around. And look, he can make a big difference too. And he did. And so can you. You could take the worst judge out there, because you know, and even the worst attorney, and you know it. So change. If anybody's going to change, you already know what you're like. You don't have to guess. And if there's any changes, that's where you need to start right now. God bless you. I'll keep you in prayer too. And, you know, may God be with all of us. God bless. And we are celebrating the birth of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, the Son of God. That is our belief as Christians. And that's, otherwise, why are you celebrating Christmas? So, God bless. This is Moo Ma University, which is a phantom online university, and you're going to be a part of us. And so we invite judges and attorneys and all to work with you, not as a vengeful thing, but as an informative, and to sit parents down and go, do you know what the heck you're doing to your kids? You know? And the kids don't have a clue, and they're too young to understand, and you got to let them grow up, because they don't know the game. They don't know your nasty little game. They don't know all your things you're role playing back there, but, you know, with God's grace, Mama's going to show them. And Mama, before they get married, hopefully, will know. Let them know, you know, what you just might be laying down. You might be laying your life down there just to help somebody else, or just to have kids. It's a lot more dangerous out there than getting married than you think. And those that don't get married and that are lifted high in society, in some towns like Goldendale, you know, well, we thank you for, you know, not committing, you know, doing abortions. It's really nice of you, you know, but they're honored more than a mother who gave the birth and decided to get married. So, you know, something's wrong there. You're being penalized for getting married, you know. Something's wrong there, right? And grandparents get money? Wrong. Something's wrong. Something's wrong. Readjustment. And you don't know what to do with your money as a state legislature or where to cut it? I'll be more than happy to sit down with you, and I will tell you where I think things need to get cut greatly. And all of a sudden, you're going to have some extra money, maybe for the bigger population that puts some of you in office. We'll talk to you later. God bless. And by the way, Happy New Year. From Mama to you. Vera Clark signing off. Bye for now. I look forward to talking to you. Bye. And we will be recruiting some people with your stories too. You know, when it first starts out, you think you're the only one, but then the more we talk, you're going to go, oh my gosh, then you're going to get the game. And that's where it gets exposed more. And that's where the judges are going to go, oh my goodness, they're getting to know it. Yep, it's too late. God bless everybody out there. Talk to you later. Bye. Yeah. Well, I'm back on again.